This is called By the Blue Sea from my book, Death in Lobsterland. She used to walk by the house of the boy she loved, hoping he'd see her and come out. Slowly she walked by, love, a spike in her windpipe, dry throat ache and pain, all she got. For loving the boy who took her by the blue sea, but would not come out of his house and take her inside to keep. He had no job or money. He wasn't supposed to be doing what they were doing. He liked the love-making near rocks that jagged up through flesh-skinning sand, but there was no way he could come out of his house to her when she walked slowly by. Finally, she took a man who had the same job the father of the boy she wanted had, and so there, but she didn't have him. And her husband went out every night, not with women or to drink, but out on a boat, a dragger, out in dark ocean. He was a mean husband and furious. He bent the prongs of a fork to show his evil strength to her if she crossed him, like by bearing a daughter. She bore him 5 sons in 6 years, 5 sons, and only wanted him to come home to her evenings from his fine job, as good as the job the father of the boy she loved and couldn't have had. But her husband didn't see a woman telling him how to live, and went out of Harbor, Maine on a dragger after sardines, mackerel. He's had what he wants of you, fishwoman. So he goes out on a boat after other helpless things, leaving you alone in pitch quiet, alone. His love is the fish lust of your carcass and the stalking cowardice of illiterates who prey on fish, who can't get away through slippery water. He liked being out on the ocean with no people coming in you got to wait on. His clothes always smelled of gasoline and fish, and with his perpetual dead cigar, he always smelled from combination cigar, fish, and gasoline, like the smell from first touch of a match to fresh cigarette, making young children car sick. He was something to wait for to crawl into bed with. Well, all this time, the boy fishwoman loved, back by the sea where burdock bushes stuck in his hair like shot porcupine quills, boy she loved had failed the pretentious piss-pot aristocracy expectations of his family. And those years, from time to time, would stagger in and out of countries and states, full of Molson of Canada, or the Ballantine of New York. And one evening, in the dark parking lot of a Damascus dance hall, he staggered up to her. And still, even then to her, he was still even then one of those lovely people she had hoped to marry into. And she knew if he ever stepped inside dance hall that night, her husband breaking ritual and taking her dancing that night, hoping to cure all this foolishness about his being home with her nights. Her husband would lay his eyes on the boy she really loved, and at last have him victim for all her imagined coldness to him. Now, her husband would beat the boy she loved into hospital or dead. And that night, under the singing leaves of lust on a dance hall parking lot, fishwoman, protecting mother of staggering boy of the blue pines, there in the cold moonlight, thinking thoughts like how he could get her again. He actually stood there and asked her if she'd still go with him, even now, if he finally came to her. He babbled he'd take her 5 children to her and her 5 children. She looked at him sadly and smiled and said she would, standing there knowing he never would come for her, but now she knew it was because he was a breathing dead man. She never expected to see him again where the pines came down there, ringing them in an embrace of doom. Well, she was a proud girl, too alive to allow herself to die in an empty house where the man went chugging out to sea nights. Her beauty was English, the falcon nose, but poverty showed in her set mouth. And she had the guts of women who stood on widow walks knowing their men dead out through the salt-splashing fog. And she left her sons to save herself. She tore herself from her children to survive. The way life was put to her, she had a right to. If she could do it, leave her children. I hear the children crying at the loss of their mother, little things sitting looking out windows at anything that moved, the wind, trees, swishing and swaying, expecting it was Mama come home, but she never came. The way her life was, she had to tell herself that a woman wouldn't know what boys need to know. It was a hard thing to do, leave her sons. I do not judge lest someone see me for what I really am, see? Fish husband, who had the same job as the father of the boy she loved, whose house she used to walk slowly by. Fish husband could go out off on the sea, and that was all right. But for her to want anything, the least of which was to simply have him home with her in the dreary house at night, was supposed to be more than her right. And it was the usual sorrow back and forth. You cannot make children with someone and leave just like that, back and forth. She tried it again with the man who had the same job as the father of the boy she loved. But once something is broken, it is destroyed. And children are destroyed, crying children, her heartbroken boy sitting looking out windows thinking since she come back once, she'd come back again, but she didn't. And once again she struck out into the world of jibes, a world of hatred for people who do not just accept their death. Finally, again she married. You have to eat. A man who was so happy to have her, he bowed to everyone in church as they got married. And Fish husband she left, no sooner was she gone, took another woman to wipe noses clean and cook for a flock, who didn't mind his saddling up and riding the range of the sea. She had her Charlie Pride records, who soon presented him with a little girl who completely took over his heart. He was wild about her. He who had bent fork prongs and shoving them under the nose of fish woman Lurleen, who used to walk slowly in front of the house of the boy she loved, who didn't come out to her. The boys grew up to tell her how as children they'd indicate their father's second woman as their mother, ashamed to tell anyone their real mother was alive, divorced, living up in Boston. They didn't know how to tell anyone their real mother wasn't dead for leaving them. Now, another life later, the boy, in some need, survived and lived long enough to throw her on her back again and climb on, whatever. Maybe just to find her to erase those things that horrify our memory. Now, one day the boy she loved all those years ago by the blue sea. Now, one day the boy she loved all those years ago come to see what he could get or regret. But her second husband was fresh cold, and going with him wouldn't look right. Besides, love is hatred when used or ignored. I loved you once, she told him now without feeling. She told him from way deep inside, like there was a little her inside herself, calling from long ago. I loved you once. Calling, I loved you once. Now to him, like a retreating surf of ocean spray as waves come in from way back deep. Her face did not move, and it was a voice of love that had died walking past his house, hoping he'd come out, that said to him now, no more, no more, but I loved you once. Now, when he looked up at her, she putting horror in him, sinking feeling, she told him he picked a day to find her, her second husband, who bent over at the middle, so glad was he to get her, dropped dead, and that his coming now made her feel that the sudden massive coronary death of her second husband must be punishment for her leaving her children, for the times he and she, they lay under pines by the blue sea. She told him she used to lie pregnant, fearing the babes would come out with 3 heads because of what he and she did by the pines near Blue Ocean all those years ago, even in snow, by the blue sea, frosting each other's eyes with our breasts.